Good evening, wonderful people, great France. I greet each and every one of you wherever you are going to watch this very program or watch it later. I encourage you to share this very broadcast because this is one of the broadcasts that reminds us what we need to do, just like every other IPOB agitator around the globe, broadcasting and also making sure that things are moving forward. Then my thanks also goes to the men on the ground whom are paying the ultimate price in order to make sure that Biafra is being restored. My viewers, fellow Biafrans, wherever you are watching, I say may God come and bless you. Today is one of the programs that when we touch upon this point, it makes the people who are representing us that claim that they are for Biafran restoration. Those that come out in order to talk about things that matters about we are here to remind them that let the Ohaneze Ndi Igbo also call off the bounty against Simon Epka. Let also the Ohaneze Ndi Igbo call off the petition against Simon Epka. These are part of the things that we also wish to be seen and also in practice. No businessman or woman or politician will come out or can be able to come out boldly to talk about well-being of the old eastern region or to ask the federal government of the damnable Zoological Republic of Nigeria to abolish the divide and rule tactics against the so-called Southeast and South-South. Why? Because they believe that whatever property that they have all across the zoo Nigeria, that they cannot be able to get it back. We know that in Abuja alone, the Igbos control 75% of land property owners. We know that. We're also telling them that according to Mazenam, they can say that whatever property that you have, let that not be the reason why that you are going to abandon what we are doing. Once you have your document attached to that, that very property is yours. Support what we are doing. Dr. Michael Opala was a prime minister of the Eastern Nigeria from 1960 to 1967. But not as a prime minister of Southeast or so-called South-South. The reason why I'm talking about this is because that the abolishment of the divide and rule tactics against the Biafrans must also the things that we need to see from Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, so that we can once again call ourselves eastern parts of Nigeria. In a sense that that automatically gave it the ultimatum that these are Biafrans. So from 1960 to 1966, Dr. Michael Okpara was the Prime Minister of Eastern region, not as South-South or Southeast. Also, Odumegwu Ojukwu was also military governor of eastern part of Nigeria and not as a military governor of so-called Southeast or South-South. So the divide and rule tactics is really working on us. But we, the people, what we need to do or to concentrate is to let we that are in the face of this Biafra movement, let our priority be one of the first things, because we bring ourselves out here with our faces to tell the world exactly what is going on, the killings and massacres and marginalization, etc., etc. And for this, we need your total support. We must call generally, publicly, to our Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to call off the bounty against Simon. Also, the petition that the so-called Nigerians petition against Simon Epka, because he is one of the people that is fighting this very movement. Now, doing that will automatically lead to the abolishment of the divide and rule tactics, because we will no longer see ourselves as so-called Southeast and South-South, but as the eastern part, because we are one people. When Biafra is being restored, it is the people of the old eastern part of Nigeria that are going to be part of Biafra. So we want to see things like that. We don't want to see things like that. We demand that the Ohaneze Ndi Igbo would demand extra one state. Of course, we applaud them for speaking for the release of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, but we want to see more. We want to see more. And so therefore, if you find yourself among the businessmen or businesswomen or politicians, and you know that what is happening, it is not something that you are very proud of, we want you to support the Afro movement. Find a way to support us. This is live broadcast today, the 2nd of May, 2023. And I still remember we are live and direct on Facebook, YouTube. So therefore, if I may continue, if after 6 to 7 years of Nigeria independence, that Nigeria breaks up after 6 to 7 years of independence, and Nigeria can be able to fight a war against the Biafran after 6 to 7 years, immediately the independence of Nigeria. All the people that are living in the other part of the damnable Zoological Republic of Nigeria was killed, massacred during the war. And then after the independence of 1960, then from the first independence was 1959. So from 1959, Dr. Michael Okpara was a prime minister of the old Eastern region. Between then to 1966, after the coup, military coup, and Nigerians or the Easterners of Nigeria be able to discover, or the politicians, because today politicians in Nigeria, businessmen and women, They don't care about what we are doing. They are selfish. But those like Ohaneze Ndi Igbo would have come out, we want them to be speaking about abolishment of divide and rule tactics. We want them to speak against the bounty against Simon Epka or every other agitation. We want them to be talking about the petition. We want them to be talking against the killings, that is going on in the southeast and so-called south-south, which is eastern part of Nigeria. We want them to be seeing things like this. Why? Because if the politicians between the 1959 to 1966 been able to discover the killings against the eastern part of Nigeria, the marginalization they've been able to discover within this couple of years. And then you are now telling me from 1970, after the war ended, to 2023, I am talking about the present Nigeria. From 1970 to 2023, which is about 53 years right now as we're speaking. And now, these politicians, from this time to this time, the businessmen, if they could not be able to see that there are more marginalization in the eastern part of Nigeria, there are more killings across the country of the eastern part of Nigeria and property destructions, and to even add up a self-centered, corrupt politicians representing the eastern part of Nigeria, if they could not be able to see these things between the good from 6 to 7 years, these politicians within this time frame realize that killings and marginalization of Ndi Igbo, and they decide that they want to stay on their own as a nation. The point that I'm getting at right now is the Afro movement. For them to see that the moment that we are right now, what they need to be talking about is to leave Nigeria. For federal government of Nigeria to allow a referendum. Because what Mazen Nnamdi Kanu stand for is for Biafra to be free from Nigeria. So these are the things that we need them to be talking about. Because between 6 to 7 years from 1959 to 1966, the politicians and the businessmen and women at that time been able to discover there is a problem, and they begin to voice out, begin to do the necessary things that made Ojukwu to ask Ndi Igbo to come back. That the politicians supported Ojukwu. Because if the politician did not support Ojukwu, there is no way that Ojukwu will fight that war. So the politicians supported him. The businessmen and women supported him. I want this very message to get to the important people that this very message matters. Because I want to talk to them. If they've been able to discover, but present politicians, after 53 years, starting from when the war ended, and they cannot be able to discover that there is more marginalization of the Easterners, there is more killings in the eastern part of Nigeria, and to add up their own self-centered, corrupt representative of the Easterners, then there is something wrong with them. So therefore, no businessman or woman or politicians as an Easterner will come out boldly to talk about well-being of eastern part of Nigeria, or to ask the federal government of Nigeria to abolish the tactics of divide and rule, which is, of course, what is his name? Um, let me get it. Let me get it. Where that tactics of divide and rule come from? Because these things, we need to be talking about these things. Are you also talking about the senseless killings and abduction? I'm going to find what I'm looking for. The senseless killings of the abduction of the youth of the Easterners. These are the things that we want Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to be talking about. Because these are the things that Mazi Nnamdi can stand for. This is what myself, Mazi Odinke Nwachineke stand for. And every other agitators around the world. The killings, the so-called Ibuwago, the Eastern Security Network Mazi Nnamdi created. Before that was created by IPOB as organization, he asked the politicians of the so-called Southeast for them to provide a security for our people, but did not do it until Mazi Nnamdi taught us a law called tort law. This very tort law gives every region the autonomous to create something that is going to secure, that is going to protect that territory. You see, Mazi Nnamdi is not operating based on the fraudulent 1999 constitution. He is operating based on the law 1966, 1973 law, 1953, 1959 laws of Nigeria. So he's not talking about Southeast and South, because it does not exist. It is the divide, the tactics of divide and rule. So he made that touch law after exposing that, then a creation of Eastern Security. So we want Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to be speaking in favor of Eastern Security Network. Because we can stand in a way that Ohaneze Ndi Igbo will try to make a agitation statement, uses the Nigerian statement to finish it up by asking extra state. Then it looks as if that you just want to make when you talk about Mazi Nnamdi, your message will go viral, and then before you know it, you go underground, begin to do your underground work. So we want you constantly to be talking about these things, supporting Eastern Security Network, as Afenifere supported Amotekun, as the Northerners support Fulani herdsmen. So we also want Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to also support Eastern Security Network. Because you made us understand that you are in our side. I'm going to drop a link. Maybe somebody has something to say. Then you can get the link from the comment section. Yeah, thank you very much, AGK, Israel, and Collins. It's your phone. It's a very good exposition. So we want them to be speaking about these things, because Fulani herdsmen, terrorist killers, are supported by the Northerners. Afenifere supported Amotekun. So we want our own also, which is Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, to also support our own. Because when the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was operating and still operating based on the old constitution, not 1999 constitution. which old constitution makes us to be eastern part of Nigeria. So I want you to be talking about the abolishment of so-called Southeast and South-South. We don't want you to be talking about extra state. Because if you're talking about extra state, that means you believe in that 1999 constitution. And even at that, they are not obeying it. You understand what I'm saying now? Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, by their own constitution, acquitted and discharged Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Their own court. But did they obey it? And it is on that 1999 constitution. You understand what I'm saying now? So making such a statement does not mean that even if they don't make that statement, that something is going to happen to Simon Epka. Nothing is going to happen to him. Because we protect our own. If we have a fight, we'll settle it inside. But outside we protect our own. You understand what I'm saying now? So we want you to be making this statement. It matters a lot. Because as the Biafran government in exile is there, their job as a government will do what they're supposed to do with these informations. Because these are the informations, or as Collins Ejiofor said, that very good exposition is something that need to be extracted exactly how I started it up until to the finishing end, and send it to any world or government that need to be send this document. It's not that we depend on them for them to give us Biafra. No. We are going to get our freedom of us, but as a notification. You know, if you want to take somebody to court, you can't just take somebody. You need the addresses, you need the data information, the rest of them, in order to send a notification to the person that you want to charge to court. Because we are going to go to court with Nigerian government. So we are giving this as a notification. We are not depending on them to give us Biafra. No, we are going to get it. And Eastern Security Network is what is going to give us that Biafra, as Onyendo said. As I said, as each and every one of us believed. And we are going to fund them. You know what I'm saying now? We are going to fund them. But to give a notification to the government of the world. So I don't want some of our people that might be having this flashback, just like as my senior comrade said, that they are not interested in sending letters. That anybody that wants to send a letter can go ahead and do that. So somebody made a statement that Simon kicked against it, and now he's doing it with the government in exile. Who is deceiving who? So we don't want to be talking about those things. But what I'm trying to make as an exposition within what I just say right now is this. We are not sending letters that they are going to give us Biafra, but as a notification of what is to come. Because we must get Biafra. We must get Biafra. So if we have any issues, we must not come out publicly to say it. We discuss it inside. So that is why I say that Simon Epka must be protected. And Ohaneze Ndi Igbo need to make a political statement against it, the petition, a political statement to support our notification. So when we are writing this document, we will now be saying, according to Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, so date, this is the link. This is the extracted message. They said so. This is the proof. Because Ohaneze Ndi Igbo represent the eastern part of Nigeria. With that, they will begin to work on the abolishment through political solution as it is right now. They will talk about the abolishment of the so-called Southeast and South-South by bringing us as eastern part of Nigeria. It is only Igbo land, which is eastern part of Nigeria, was divided after the war. Yoruba land was not divided. Neither Northern they were not divided. It's only us. And upon that, they gave us small local government. That small local government cannot produce enough representatives in the House of Rep and the Senate House. So they themselves that allow themselves to be the way it is before the war, they have more representatives. So anytime that something that bothers us comes on the table, it will be killed on arrival. And each and every one of them have compromised. So as Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, as the father, begin to talk about the marginalization bit by bit, it is going to help us getting our freedom. It is going to help us get our freedom, because this is divide and rule. Also, we want to talk about, bring to the notice of Ohaneze Ndi Igbo that NDA officer was seen preparing a ganja. So the reason why I'm making this connection is the video that I'm going to show you. You're going to see it. The reason why I'm making this connection is because they will not have any excuse to arrest or detain our brothers. You understand what I'm saying now? They will not have any excuse, because if they bring an excuse that they are smoking, now this video will prove to us that NDA is not even respecting their own law. Listen. You see, it's Moli Libo. This is NDA. So Nigeria has no mercantilism. Nigeria has no mercantilism. One need to be supporting the Biafran agitation. Let them be supporting Biafran agitation. This is what we want them to be doing. Supporting Biafran agitation, it is going to help us. Because like I said, after 53 years from 1970 to 2023. And the representative of the eastern part of Nigeria, which includes Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, could not be able to realize there is more marginalization after the war in the eastern part of Nigeria. There is more killings of the Easterners, and even to add up their own selfish interests and corrupt that they are, if they cannot be able to realize that after 53 years that there is something wrong with Nigeria, then they are deceiving themselves. Because from 1959 to 1966, which is 6 to 7 years, the politicians at that time, which includes Dr. Michael Obara, whom was the prime minister of the Eastern Nigeria, not as a so-called South or Southeast, from 1960, 1959 to 1966. They've been able to realize there is a problem, and they begin to talk about it. And then we have our freedom for 3 years. Are you, in the present day 2023, a Nigerian politician and Nigerian government, will not be able to realize there is more, then you are deceiving yourself. So we want to support, speak about Eastern Security Network. Speak against the bounty and the petition against Simon. Speak about the unnecessary killings. There is no even necessary killings. There is no even necessary killings. Speak about the killings of the youths, their killings and abduction. Speak against it. Speak against it. Because these are not the things that we want to be talking about. Take a headline of today's video, today's update. Hold on, let me bring it so that you see the updates. Okay.
As Nigerians count down to the 2023 general elections, the indigenous people of Biafra continue to clamor for their independence and threaten a disruption.
As Nigeria is coming to their elect whatever president, so also we, the indigenous people of Biafra, agitating for the freedom of our people, still stand on what we stand, which is Biafra restoration and unconditional release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, which we are following up with sit at home. That even the politicians of the so-called Southeast and South are not happy about it.
Disruption of election activities in the southeast of Nigeria, with the emergence of Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate. The Southeasterners beamed with hope at a chance of an Igbo president.
Peter Obi is a replicant of Zeke. So we stand on our ground. Peter Obi have a case right now, right, with the federal government of Nigeria. You understand what I'm saying now? Because he won. Let him carry on with his court case. That is why we cannot be able to allow anybody to distract us. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter how they suppress the message. But the message is getting to the people that it should be getting to. So we stand on Biafra restoration. Peter Obi and co should get this. The politicians from 1959 to 1966 supported Ojukwu in today's Mazi Nnamdi Kanu for the separation from Nigeria. So why can't you support this movement right now and demand what we are demanding? Referendum. This message is going to Ohaneze Ndi Igbo and the politicians. Why can't you be talking against the divide and rule tactics from Willie Lynch? Why can't you be talking about the promotion in the favor of Eastern part? This is what we want to talk about. Because Ojukwu being the governor of the Eastern Nigeria, and then Dr. Michael Okpara being the prime minister of the eastern part of Nigeria. These two. All the politicians supported them. So, because of that, the British advised Nigerian government to impose the divide and rule, whereby creating us, making us to see ourselves that we are not Igbos. This one right now goes to the so-called South-South. And they give you that impression that you are not Igbo, because the so-called oil is in your region. But today we have oil in Anambra State. Today we have oil in Enugu State. Today we have oil in Ebonyi State. We have oil everywhere. And oil is not our problem. They allow you to retreat yourself from your brothers and sisters. You have to think twice. So the only way to break that is to support what we are doing. But at the time of Dr. Michael Okpara and the Odumegwu Ojukwu, the Nigerian government and the British discovered, and they now decide to divide us. So we need to know where our problem, and dividing us, you will not have more representative to compare with the Yoruba land or the northern Nigeria. So whatever issue you brought out to the table of the House of Representatives and the rest of them, you will not be able to present your case, because it is going to be on vote. And they are going to kill that very vote. How many times have you brought out this one? Now go to the politicians. How many times have you brought about a case, things that I'm talking about, things that we some of the things that we're talking about here, it was then on arrival. So the only thing that you can be able to do right now is to play the part of the politicians in 1959 to 1966 played by supporting the freedom to come, by asking federal government to give you referendum, by supporting Eastern Security Network. Because your colleagues in the North and in the West, they support their own. So why can't you support your own? Why can't you play the part that the politicians from 1959 to 1960 played? But 53 years right now, 53 years right now, you have not discovered there is a problem. It is because you are selfish. That is why another name of this very program is marginalization. Is caused by the representative of the so-called Southeast or Easterners. Let me say Easterners. If you want to join the program to make a comment, click on the link that I just sent at Mazo Odinke Watch 1 YouTube, if you're watching from YouTube, or at Mazo Odinke Watch Facebook page. You can click and join and also give them their own advice. So the businessmen today, the businesswomen today need to also replicate what the businessmen from 1959 to 1966 did by supporting the Biafra movement. Because they listened. They listened to Odumegwu Ojukwu at that time. When Odumegwu Ojukwu, after the first pogrom against the Igbos, asked the Easterners to come back home, then there was a peace talk between him and Gowon. Part of that peace talk was for the Igbos to return, because we know it is the Igbos that hold the economy of the Nigeria. So they returned. But after they returned, the Northerners plot a pogrom against the Igbos, massacred a lot of people. So Ojukwu called on the politicians, everybody, to support the Afro restoration. They did. So we want politicians of today to also do the same, because you cannot outright them from House of Representatives. You cannot outright them on the Senate House. You cannot. Your cases are dead on arrival. Nobody will hear about it. Maybe now said they have imposed a law that there will not be cameras. So whatever you said or do cannot yield any fruit from there. That is why the Nigeria that you are operating, that they are operating today, cannot give us what we want. The only thing that will give us what we want is Biafra restoration. I also want you to press on these issues. Let this issue be, you can come to our programs. You come to our program, you speak. Nobody's going to do anything. But what we will not stand is for you to come out and make a political statement, if I might use that word, for the attention of the Afrans by asking the Nigerian government to release Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. And then part of those programs, you also demand for extra states. Then I will gladly submit that you just want to get the attention of the Afra. Then go on the ground and work. So people like me cannot stand by your side when your successors or previous administration of Ohaneze Ndi Igbo place a bounty against Simon Epka. You go through their files. There are a lot of things. You know, I say that I will be doing Hausa program. But things are coming up that we need to address these very issues. You know what I'm saying now? We need to be seeing things like this. Let's continue listening to the video.
Presidency. However, not many Nigerians share the obedient vision. Simon Epka, the spokesperson of the IPOB, in an interview with a Finland journalist, speaks on his reservation for an Igbo presidency and the Nigeria state.
That is the problem. Why must you have somebody that have to be in the side of my people? That is the dangerous diversity that have brought us this far, because it will never work. Everything about Nigeria is what favors my people. I don't want what we want a Biafra where everything favors everybody. But when you have Nigeria, it is either Fulani. Now we don't even have Hausa anymore because Fulani have overshadowed them. So it is either you are fighting for Northerner as a Fulani Muslim, or you are fighting for Yorubas, or you are fighting for Igbo people. So how can you continue in that kind of system?
You cannot. We cannot continue into that kind of system.
This is why we must, make sure that we do not validate Nigeria again. Election is not happening in Biafra land.
Because you don't want people to vote.
Not me. Biafra have decided. I am telling you the fact. There is nothing that will make Biafran's people to go out and vote. This is a life and death matter. We have come a long way. For over 50 years, Nigeria have done all manner of genocide, committed genocide against our people, kill us every day, and you expect us to allow them to continue to kill us, to elect governors that will bring military and militarize our territory? We can't do that again. No.
You see what I'm talking about? He said after 50 years. This is what Simon Epka said. You see what I'm talking about? He even reduced 3 years from you people, from the politicians, between 1970 to 2023. 53 years. Because this very interview was done this year, 2023. And you cannot be able to realize that there is more killings in the eastern parts of Nigeria. There is more marginalization in the eastern part of Nigeria. There is a lot of bad things that is happening in the eastern part of Nigeria. And you cannot be able to realize that these are the things that you need to be speaking, because the Northerners are speaking in the favor of Northerners. Afenifere are speaking in the favor of the Oduduwas. So our own should also be speaking in our own favor. You know what I'm saying now? This is what he's saying. After 50 years, we cannot continue like this. This is what he said. After 50 years, we cannot continue. Let's continue.
Nobody will vote in Biafra land. I am telling you the fact. It will shock the world. We've made up our mind and we know what we have on ground. This particular civil disobedience is also a democratic process. And I want you to see it in that perspective. When people say, I don't want, it is their choice. And if you think that there are people who want to vote that are bigger in number, conduct a referendum. As simple as that. For now, we control 90% of Biafra people. 90%. That Nigeria is a mistake because of the...
You see that? If they doubt that we don't control the eastern part of Nigeria, they should conduct a referendum. So these are part of the things we want the Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to. We don't want them to be speaking the way we are speaking, but to ask the things according to the Constitution and reference what is happening. to return back to the eastern part, to the old constitution. You know what I'm saying now? And by that old constitution, it gives a room of self-determination. We want them to be keeping this in block by block, making the connections, not to be restructuring. No, going back to the old constitution, and in that constitution, there is a room, even in 1999, but let us go back to that one. Because that one, what you have there is the eastern part of Nigeria. But this very one is southeast and south-south. And also in that old constitution gives a room for a self-determination because 90% of the eastern part of Nigeria support Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. So conduct a referendum based on this very fact. Did you see your statement? I'm just giving you a statement. I am just giving you a statement. Conduct a referendum. Because all these things created, these rooms created in the old East, on the old distance. To also tell the Afrans the reason why that the British planned that very coup was because they have seen that Dr. Michael Okpara, as the Prime Minister of the old eastern region of Nigeria, the economy is booming over 40%. Over 40% of the world. They have to find a way in order to make this war happen. Because not only that, the Easterners are the occupant of the major post. They are the occupant of the major post. You know what I'm saying now? In every sectors of government. In every sector of government. So the British now plan this very coup. You know what I'm saying now? They now plan this very coup. So the coup was not in our own favor. I just want to let the Afrans know because of the points that I'm laying. It is not on our own favor, but it is the plant. It is what British want because they want to cross a war. They want to divide us. So you as Ohaneze Ndi Igbo and these Eastern politicians begin to talk about Eastern, talk about marginalization, killings, talk about the release of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, support Eastern Security Network, give your reference. When you are making your statement, always make your reference so that you can be able to make the job easier for us. You know what I'm saying now? So that you can be able to make the job easier for us. Because we are determined to make sure that Biafra is being restored. With Biafra, which is going to be the beacon of hope of Africa. With that, we can now be able to destroy the 1885 Berlin Conference, which led to the scramble of Africa. So Biafra being the beacon of Africa, the other Africans will also emulate what we did in order to break the boundaries. Some African countries are still operating on the political system because they maintain their rights in politics. They did not allow the interference of the French and the British or Dutchmark to interfere to their political system. But in our own case, the politicians are corrupt, so they can be easily be bought. That is why when some of them have been assigned a contract to fix a road, they are going to spend those money. But immediately that they want to speed, they cannot be able to speed, they are going to go to jail. So it automatically makes them to be selfish. But with our support, that is why we are backbone. With our support, nobody will do you anything. We have already known that some of you, before they give you any political position, they have to sleep with you, make a video. We already know that. So when they bring such a video, we demote it. We are not going to share it. We are not going to promote it. You also say that because we control the internet. So don't be afraid. If any of us see it, they are not, because this is your price. And now this is what you have to do in order to redeem yourself. To be like those politicians between the 1959 to 1966 that support the Prime Minister of the eastern part of Nigeria and also the governor of the eastern part of Nigeria at that time, which of course you know that we now have Prime Minister and government in exile. So everything is complete. We have Eastern Security Network that is guiding the Easterners, not as a South-South or Southeast. We have already made an exposition about tort law, which was made by Mazen Namdekano before the creation of Eastern. So we are not operating based on that. We are operating based on the old constitution. And now it is your now right in that your political arena to now talk about the abolishment of the divide and rule tactics that brought about the so-called Southeast and South-South, which does not exist. Once you break that very chain, begin to speak about this, nobody will do you anything because we always support you. The reason why I'm making this very broadcast is because of the statement that Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, new chairman-elect, made for the unconditional release of Mazen Namdekano, but then later said that they are demanding extra state. So demanding extra state, you are operating on the 1999 Constitution. You are operating on the fraudulent creation of Southeast and South-South. You are not operating as your name stand, Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, to speak about the marginalization, which you all, the representative, are the people that are representing us. To ask every businessman and women as a Biafra living across the nation, which in Abuja alone, the Easterners control 75% land property. If you go to the Lagos, the Easterners control 75% of industrialization areas. So as Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, you speak to them, remind them of Dr. Michael Okpara, the Prime Minister of the Eastern Nigeria from 1959 to 1966. Not as a Prime Minister of Southeast and South-South. Remind them of Emeka Odumegwu, who was military governor of eastern part of Nigeria, not as a military governor of southeast or south-south. Remind them the support that they received from the businessmen and women at that time. Remind them that they respect them, that when the governor of the eastern part of Nigeria called for the Igbos to return back home, they listened. Remind them. And today, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu have said that your property will not be lost. Come back home. Support what we are doing. Support Eastern Security Network. That your property, nothing will happen to your property. Remind them. Remind them that 6 to 7 years from 1959 to 1966, these great politicians and the military serving the eastern part of Nigeria called and supported the Afra. They called the businessmen and women at that time to support the Afra, and they did. So we are calling each and every one of you to support that. The message here is for Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, businessmen and women, the politicians, to support what we are doing. This is the message. You know, sometimes you want to explain things to our people, you need to go around the bush, just go. The message here is for them to support IPOB agitation. This is the message. You know what I'm saying now? This is the message for them to support what we are doing, because they cannot win it through the House of Rep or Senate House. They cannot. It is not possible. It is not possible. So they need to speak out. Let's continue listening.
Tribal and dangerous diversity in Nigeria, which is also a destructive diversity. So when you give the people the choice to choose how they want to live, that is a true democracy. A democracy is not when you bring in the military and invent communities, burn the communities because people are protesting. You kill them. Is that democracy? Do you do that in the United Kingdom? The answer is no.
But what about your role in all this? Your
Ekpa, speaking on the high spate of violence in the southeast states, which have been linked to the activities of the IPOB and the ESN, defended his role in instigating violence in the region and accused the Nigerian.
Did you hear? These are the Euro brown paper journalists saying that Simon Epka is instigating war. These are the people that I sang the song, which, if time permits, I am also going to get that very song that I sang for the politicians. I mean, the medias, Nigerian medias. How can she say that Simon Epka is instigating war? How can she make that statement? How can she make that statement? You see, the reason why I say that we need to return back to where we are before, that it is how it is. Let me try and see this very song. Yoruba media. Let me see. I think it is the Liberator. How can they be talking about? Let me get that very. No, let me get the song. The song that I sang to the Yoruba media.
To show me love.
In the 2017, I woke up from a slumber to liberty from slavery.
Oh Lord, to Potika Diana, come rescue your people, Biafra. Oh Lord, to Potika Diana, come rescue your people, Biafra. Every day we are dying and the people they are crying. Every other one is giving up. And nobody show me love. Our head is from above. You're the only one to show me love. Show me love.
In the 2017, I woke up from a slumber to liberty from slavery. Then I realized a phrase I don't have my freedom. Why? Is it because I am Igbo man? Or is it because I am a Biafra man? Prophecy from the east, rather from the west, upon the trigger of Africa. The sun rises, the sun sets, then hurry around to rise again for the restoration of Biafra. Africa, to the west, people from the west, Yoruba media pressured over my freedom. How? News allegedly. Yoruba media news allegedly. Oh Lord.
Oh Lord, to Potika Diana.
Do you hear that? Yoruba media allegedly. They report allegedly news. They report false news. How can she say that Simon is castigating war? That is why I sang this very song. So if they want to listen more to their own message from this very song, they should go to Odinkema Official and get it. I just want to play that very part. You know what I'm saying now? Just want to play that very part so they will listen. Now let us continue to what we want to show you from this very update and things that we want Ohaneze Ndi Igbo talking about.
Nigerian governments of being the perpetrators of the reported violence.
What I do, it is the provocation of the policy of Nigeria. Okay? So it is a long time bomb coming. So what you see happening now, Nigeria have a history of violence from the beginning of Nigeria. After independence, every election in Nigeria has witnessed violence. So it is not about me. I am here as a good guy to put an end, to have a lasting solution to the violence that have caused the life of thousands of Nigerians. I am the good guy trying to teach the people that they have a right. There is no blood on my hands. There are more blood on those supporting the election, supporting this particular coming election. They have more blood in their hand. In Imo State, you have a governor that have invaded his own state, killed people, and why are you people not talking about that? Those are the people that have blood in their hand. All the people that have been elected in Nigeria since 1960 all have had bloods in their hand, and nobody is asking the question. I am just the good guy who say enough is enough. Somebody have to say something, and somebody have to do something, and we're doing it. That has been released by a man called Ikenga Imo, when an assassin invaded his house and they wanted to kill him. They are police officers, but if there is no CCTV, they will say unknown gunmen. These are the people that are causing all this crisis in Biafra land. But without that video, everybody has concluded that they are unknown gunmen. Today we have known them. What are the government doing about it? What are the international community doing about it? Every evidences that have surfaced anywhere about CCTV camera, it has always been security agent from the Nigeria state.
Ekpa also responded to questions about him giving orders from outside the shores of Nigeria, rather fighting from within the country.
You should know. You see, I learn from what happened to others. I don't want to put my life in danger because the country, as far as I'm concerned, does not exist. Any country that does not respect the rule of law does not exist.
You're scared you might be killed.
Did you see the useless question that they are asking Simon and also the rest of us. Because it is not only this question goes to Simon Epka, but also this very message or this very question referred to us. Why is it that you don't want to come down to Nigeria to fight? This is a question. And this has become some of the arguments. You understand what I'm saying now? Even, my goodness. The mistake, he said that he learned from mistakes. Let me point out these very mistakes. After Ojukwu and the rest of the great forefathers that fought for Biafra to be restored, after they fled to Ivory Coast and Guinea and the rest of them, what they should have done at that time is to create the government in exile. Because America, after the Second World War, Europe, they have those places that have been occupied by the people that occupy the land of their victims. Those ones that fled went to have a government in exile. This very response or analysis is to respond to the question the journalist asked Simon Epka, why is it that he did not come down to Nigeria? Automatically, why are we on diaspora fighting for Biafra to be restored? That is where the Biafra in exile government, Biafra Republic government in exile or Biafra government in exile comes in. Because other countries have done that. They have government in exile, including Taliban. So when you say that the Taliban are fighting for over 20 years and they have got, it is not just that they have the government in exile. Go and make your research. So this is where the response. So it is who fled his country to a foreign land that can now be able to have what is called government in exile. So we don't need to be in Nigeria to agitate. So if some of you are making this as a debate, I want this very debate to die as it is right now. Why can you be in abroad? Are you being abroad? You are fighting for Biafra. Why don't you? I am telling you that Biafran government in exile or Biafran Republic government, it is those who are in diaspora that are going to operate it. And we have it now. So you see the more reason why you need to support what we are doing. So don't bring the argument that why are you in a diaspora fighting for Biafra? Even if Simon did not give this response to this very point that I'm talking about right now, he gives it in a perspective that he cannot risk his life. So this is not just about Simon Epka, because Simon is not the only person fighting for the freedom of our people. But I'm giving you in a political statement that those that have gotten their independence flee to America, London to have a government in exile. Canada have government in exile. America have government in exile. And it is those that fled from their country that have government in exile. So we have fled in our own country, Niger area, to be in a foreign land. Now we have government in exile. So you see that if you bring an argument to say, why are you fighting? Or anybody that's going to ask this very question. That is why I say this very program needs to be extracted exactly the way it is and circulate it, even send it to the government of the world. Give them references, make a research. This thing that I'm talking about also is in the public domain. So we cannot come back. We must stay in diaspora to fight. Let's continue.
Not everybody, you know that. You can say that as well. Yes. Yes, there's a bounty on my head because Nigeria, they don't, because of the Islamic agenda in Nigeria, whoever that rises up to say something that will, make the life of.
You see, you talked about bounty. I have not even listened to this because if I want to make a program with a video, I just listen to like 20, I already see what I'm looking at. He said there is a bounty on his head. This is what I talked about here. And he repeated what I said. So Ohaneze Ndi Igbo should call off the bounty, the petition. You know what I'm saying now? This is live broadcast today, the 3rd of May. Because we started yesterday, the 2nd of May, 2023. And now, the time now is 12:31 a.m. midnight. So we want them to be talking about these things. Let's continue.
Of the people to be better. They want to kill the person. They assassinate people every day. That is what we are fighting against. We are defending ourselves and we have armed ourselves to fight Nigeria till the last day. We have done it before. The only difference now is that today we have social media. If social media was there in the 1960s, somebody will do what I'm doing today. In those days, we have a man called Okokondem. Okokondem was broadcasting for Radio Biafra and was propagating Biafra stuff, but because there were no social media, so he would have done even what I'm doing today, I believe so. So this is what will make a difference. And my activities on social media is educating the people, telling them they are right, that you have a right to say no, and you have the right to say yes.
Who's funding you and your organization?
Biafra people are funding my organization.
Not the Tinubu.
Now, you hear what he said. For some of you that will say that you are in social media making noise. He said that Okokonde was broadcasting. You know what I'm saying now? Okokonde was broadcasting. But the reason, because we have social media today. So he would have done it better than how we are doing it. So, like I said, I want to also put some things in a rest right now. Because there's also an argument that is going on right now. And this very argument has become a case. Now, this very argument, we're making argument that Simon Epka say that the Biafran people are funding his organization. I want to put this at rest right now, that when he said that Biafra is funding his organization, he is talking about the Biafra movement. Because they are interviewing him. The person that asked him the question, say, who is funding your organization? So he responded. And he is talking about when he said, when he made a point to say that let me take it back again. Let me take it back again. Because I don't want to miss. He said something, he gave a response. They asked him a question. I remember now. They asked him a question. Why is it that he is not fighting? He did not come down to Nigeria to fight this very struggle. But the response he gave, he said his life is in danger. So he is talking about himself. That is why I say that this very movement is bigger than each and every one of us as an individual. So he is giving as an instant. He did not give this as a political statement. You understand what I'm saying now? That because we have government in exile, and it is those that are in exile have the liberty. They have the liberty to create a government in exile. From there, he will now begin to make a reference to the countries that have their own exile, government in exile. It is going to generate more social media boost because the Nigerian media today are talking about Biafra. But he said that his life is in danger. So when he talk personal. So when they ask him about his organization, he is giving that response personal. But he is talking about Biafra. You know what I'm saying now? He's talking about Biafra. He's not talking about his own personal organization. He's talking about Biafra. Because all the response that they threw to him, he is giving that response personal. You know what I'm saying now? But he's talking about Biafra. So the response that he should have given to them, that things like the reason why he cannot be in Nigeria is because we have government in exile. So that kills that very one. So a lot of people are misinterpreting it. And then also, yeah. So when you say it is not that he's talking about he's talking about Biafra. So let me continue.
Party.
I have nothing to do with Tinubu, and you know, it's very funny. A lot of people said Tinubu paid me to 25 million. How is that possible? How is it possible?
You're denying he
I don't know who is Tinubu. I have never communicated with anybody close to him. Just like the way they forged the letter. The reason.
Now, we know Dr. Ngozi Arabeze, and we know her story. So I think that may weigh this very question. But right now, even Dr. Ngozi Arabeze is also part of Eastern Nigeria. So each and every one must support what we are doing. Let's continue.
Why this letter issue? Nigeria is a criminal country. They breed criminals, and that's what we're fighting against. The reason why the letter on gets sorted out easily and fast was because.
Anyway, let me get to the next video that I also want to touch upon before we call it a day. Let me get another one.
A fraudulent arrangement. In 1959,
will I say, variants? Will I say variants of this followers or of these agitations? But how did we get to this point? Let's start with that.
well, so let me first say that the people who will not withdraw my PhD, I'm not yet a professor. But how did we get to where we are? Nigeria is a fraudulent arrangement. In 1959 general election, the number of the electorate voters in the South was 4,600, about 4.6 million voters. And they delivered 73 plus 83. That's 154 voters, members of the House of Rep. Whereas the North had 1.92 million voters and delivered 134 members of the House of Representatives. You get what I'm saying? 2.6 million voters delivered 81 members of the House of Rep. 1.99 million delivered 73 members of the House of Representatives. 1.92 million, the lowest, delivered 134. And we say we are running a democracy. So we have skewed our system from the beginning. But I will take you back to 1922 when Lord Lugard wrote a book called The Dual Mandate. He wrote clearly in that book that whenever the British will be leaving this country, they should hand over to an ethnic group in this country. I don't want to mention them, but I'm sure you probably have an idea what group I'm talking about.
Did you see that? The same thing that we're talking about here. This is exactly what he's talking about. He is not operating based on 1999 Constitution. He was operating based on the constitutions before the 1999 Constitution. Listen, these are the kind of things that we want Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to be talking about.
You mentioned handed over to them, and this was what happened. Then in April 1961, when there was a plebiscite or a referendum, Northern Cameroon was to decide whether to be part of Nigeria or to go away. They decided to be part of Nigeria and added more to the skewing of the majority in the House of Representatives for a particular region of the North. The South were not so savvy, they allowed Southern Cameroon to go. Now, if democracy is about numbers, I would have thought that those two parties in the South that delivered 4.6 million electorate should have formed the majority. But it appears that what we were doing is the region with the largest territory
Now, the statement that he's talking about is concerning P2B. Now, we have seen what is going on with P2B. P2B has a case. Let him go with that. Be pursuing them from there. Let us see if they still believe in one Nigeria, which we are telling them to play the part of Dr. Michael Hopara, whom was the Prime Minister of the Eastern Nigeria from 1959 to 1966. And then Emeka Megwochukwu was the governor, military governor of Eastern part of Nigeria. And they call on our people to support him. So we need Ohaneze Ndi Igbo. I might not play the whole videos because we have been here for almost 1 hour 30 minutes, so other people can be able to watch this very program. So I wanted to be talking about things like this. Let's continue.
I was going to form the government. That was what they used. So what I'm trying to say is that we have had a skewing of the system of this country from the beginning, and it's a fraudulent and unfair system. If you look at Section 2 of Nigeria Constitution, it talks about maintaining the integrity of the state. It doesn't talk about the interest of the people of Nigeria. And then Chapter 2 of Nigeria Constitution, economic, social.
Did you see what he said? The Constitution right now is talking about protecting the integrity of a state, not as the people. Did you see the reason why? That we must get Biafra. They must support Biafra.
Political, diplomatic, and so on.
So how
Even
does this,
what
if I
talks about-
want to interrupt you, how does this all relate to?
That's where I'm going, that we are having a system that is unfair.
Du hast deinen Führerschein.
And it does not deliver the best to everybody. Democracy is supposed to give the greatest good to the greatest number. It is the reverse that we have in this system.
Mr. Adekunle, what do you make of these agitations we've experienced over time, and how valid are their concerns?
I think I've said it, and I'm going to say it again. This problem in Igbo land is a creation of the federal government of Nigeria. In fact, the sitting government didn't meet Igbo land in chaos that it is today.
You see what he said? The problem in the eastern part of Nigeria is the creation of the federal government of Nigeria, which we are fighting to have our independence, at the same time telling our people that there is nothing like Southeast and South-South. And we stood on that very and demand for referendum. So Nigerian government with the military, with the British, creating their divide and rule using Southeast and South-South to implement it. That is what we are fighting. And that is why the federal government created the problem. Just give you an analysis based on what this man said.
Because certain actions bring about certain reactions.
Okay.
The government of Nigeria failed woefully in the way it handled Nnamdi Kanu's, matter.
Okay.
At the time we were talking about it then, that the government force approach will not work.
Okay.
That it will bring about something else that will be counterproductive to the interest of Nigeria. And that's what has happened. You see,
Biafran government in exile. That is part of the things.
When people feel marginalized,
okay,
when there is, whether it is true or not, when there is perceived injustice,
you see that? First of all, creation of South East and South South, that you cannot have enough representative in the Southeast to talk about the things that matter to the Southeast. Now, when he arrives to the House of Representatives or Senate, it will be dead on arrival because he has to be on the vote. And now the people have now come together to demand for the outright from Nigerian government to go back to where we were before the British came. And that becomes a problem. So the federal government created these very problems. Let's continue. And these are the things that we expect and we want Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to be talking about.
Fairness and all those things. There are ways, governments go about it, especially when there is sincerity. Have we seen any positive or genuine effort towards solving the problems? I've not seen any. Look at the Southeast today. It is destroyed. The economy of that region is destroyed. And we are not talking about small economy. I know Igbo land very well. Industrials, enterprising, very great people. But because of those mere agitations, that are not even new. There was Masob and Wazurike, all those. They were not a threat to Nigeria. They were not a threat to Igbo land. They were not a threat to the economy. They were not a threat to anybody.
That is because we are more determined. Because part of the mistake that our great leaders did was to come back to Nigeria to join Nigeria, which of course Ohaneze Ndi contested for a seat in the House of Representatives. But he was outvoted with over 12,000. So he's a dead on arrival because they know that they set a trap by accepting him immediately and also giving him the belief that he can run and win and continue what he's doing. But they will do some kurukere to speak against him to make sure that he never succeed. He tried, he failed, because they know that Ojukwu ever loved his people. So the mistake that they did at that time is to come back. They should have formed government in exile and stayed on it and continue from there. So that very mistake, this time around, we are not ready to make that very mistake. That is why we have government in exile. And that is the response that I'm giving to this man that is giving this analysis.
And because somebody is asking for, hey, we want to do Biafra, hey, we want to do whatever, it's not a crime as long as they are not, going about it.
It is not a crime, and it has never been a crime. We are peaceful agitators fighting for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally, and for the fact that the federal government of Nigerian High Court have already proclaimed Mazi Nnamdi Kanu a free man, discharged and acquitted from all charges. And then also the demand of the referendum in Nigeria, and then also that we are supporting Eastern Security Network to the fullness to make sure that they take us to the freedom that we need. I still remember Odinkeman Kendelemwa Chineke, aka Afro Concrete, second disciple of Onyin Demazan, kind of serving the indigenous people of Afro through media, evangelist, and also in music. This very program was not planned, but we have to deliver the message. We really have to deliver the message. And on this note, I have to say good evening.
Oh Lord, come rescue your people, Biafra. Oh Lord, come rescue your people, Biafra. Every day we are dying and the people they are crying. Every other one is giving up. And nobody show me love. Our head is from above. You're the only one to show me love. Show me love.
In the 2017, I woke up from my slumber to liberate you from slavery. Then I realized what praise of present for my freedom. Why? Is it because I am Igbo man? Or is it because I am a Biafra man? Prophecy from the east, running from the west upon the tree of Africa. The sun rises, the sun sets, then hurry around to rise again for the restoration of Biafra, Africa. To the west, people from the west, Yoruba media present over my freedom. How? News allegedly. Yoruba media news allegedly. Oh Lord.
Oh Lord, come rescue your people, Biafra. Oh Lord, come rescue your people, Biafra. Every day we are dying and the people they are crying. Every other one is giving up. And nobody show me love. Our head is from above. You're the only one to show me love. Show me love.
Down to the masses, people have working not to send enough is enough. From the east down to the west, from the middle belt down to the north. Heavenly tax force, the unknown, has given out a warning to Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, to Nigerian police, to Nigerian army, all the security forces in Nigeria. You won. When the people are killed, nobody reporting it. When the innocent are jailed, nobody reporting it. What do we do? What do we say? That is why we look upon unknown to do the needful, because people have to be free, people have to be safe. When you think about freedom, what do you have in mind? When you think about strength, what do you have in mind? What do you have in mind? Oh Lord,
oh Lord, come rescue your people, Biafra. Oh Lord, come rescue your people, Biafra. Every day we are dying and the people they are crying. Every other one is giving up. And nobody show me love. Our head is from above. You're the only one to show me love. Show me love. We see your life better. See your future brighter. See your land where everyone in it feels better. Filled with the best of praise. Yeah, believe in love and understanding. I eyes are off the hills. That's where our help comes from. To you alone I love you raise our voice. To you alone I can hear our voice. And to you with us over the supplication.
the unknown has sent a serious warning to every libertine living in Nigeria. According to unknown, it's time to end everything for peace to reign in Africa. The unknowns are beautiful angels of death. Just right, bring down not flies, but the giant enforcers of misery. If Niyeti Allah terror henchmen and others including Boko Haram can be arrested free by Noye Colonel Folanai Muhammad Buhari. Then no single soul deserves to be in any prison in Nigeria. News allegedly. Yoruba media news allegedly.
Oh Lord, Chukwuka Diana, come rescue your people, Biafra. Oh Lord, Chukwuka Diana, come rescue your people, Biafra. Every day we are dying and the people they are crying. Every other one is giving up. And nobody showing love. Our head is from above. You're the only one to show me love.
The prison break at the Nigeria Correctional Service of Where Custodial of Imo State. I pity those brothers and sisters and the force of true Nigeria. The unknowns are beautiful angels of death. Their stripe bring down not flies, but the giant in process of misery.
Oh Lord, Chukwuka Diana, come rescue your people, Biafra. Oh Lord, Chukwuka Diana, come rescue your people, Biafra. Every day we are dying and the people they are crying. Every other one is giving up. And nobody showing love. Our head is from above. You're the only one to show me love.
2018 haben Leute Millionengewinne erzielt, indem sie in digitale Technologien und Startups investiert haben, die kurz vor dem Durchbruch standen. Eine einmalige Sache? Schau mal, lass mir dir etwas zeigen. Hier siehst du das Projekt Alchemy. Hiervon habe ich 2021 100.000 Anteile für 10 Cent pro Anteil gekauft. Sprich 10.000 Euro. 2 Wochen später ist ein Anteil von 10 Cent auf 5.
So, Biafrans, I have to say good evening.